My name is Leon Keith Dirks, and born in Hutchinson, Kansas, and went to school in Hutchinson up till the 4th grade, and then the folks moved us over here to Buhler, and I went to the grade school here, 5 through 8, and then to our Buhler High School. And events, younger, I remember one when I was about 3rd grade, that World War II was over, and the whole city came outside from wherever they were, and our whole school let out, and there was a lot of whooping and a hollering and singing and around the flagpole, and that was one incident there. And then, like you said there, baptism. Yes, I can remember that. And
do you remember how old you were when you got baptized?
Okay.
What grade or?
I believe we must have been 8th grade, 7 and 8.
Yeah, 8th grade.
Mm-hmm.
And I can remember, I can just, as clear as it can be, right here in this church, and on those front benches there. And we reviewed different things and got ready for the celebration on Sunday. And then we went through that, and we were supposed to, in our words, own words, what a definition for this, for baptism. And I had to think, I says, okay, from now on, we have made a pledge that we will be doing better as far as we can control it. And that was our motto. It came in the mail from Uncle Sam, and he's wanting you to come and participate with him. And so I remember just exactly where I had to come to in Hutchinson, and an office on the 1st Street east of Main. Where was that? Well, by the Fox Theater, the next corner east on that street, and then to the south, a few doors in that older building, and then you turned west into the building. And there I explained to him what I had in mind, and he wanted to be a little reluctant in putting that down, writing that down, but there had been others already, so he pretty well knew how he was going to put it, and he wrote me up, and then let's see, I received some things in the mail. And then we talked about it at church here with other fellas, same age and all. And we were supposed to go see a fella, I believe that was in Lehigh, Kansas over here. I thought a Schmidt, an older fella. And that's where everyone would go to and ask about this selective service, 1W, and what was available and where. And he had information on that. And we had several that was wanting to look at Denver, Colorado, because it was fairly close for us here. And he gave us then some names of hospitals over there that were looking for orderlies, and they were short on them. And Colorado General, right downtown, was asking. So we had several guys, and we ran down there to interview with them and ask them what we could do for them, and they said, well, showed what was available. And so in about another week, we went on down and got our apartments. It was just, they paid us just enough to pay for our apartment, your single apartment, and eating pretty well. And I had my own car, which I was lucky to have, and I could get around decent. And I can remember coming for the first day up to Colorado General and up to Men's Ward B, and the head nurse, her name was Law, L-A-W, and she explained what the job was about and how I was to get started. And she showed me some of the rooms. We had rooms and wards, and the rooms were first, and she took me into some of the rooms, and oh my goodness, I hadn't seen things like that, people in that kind of position, and it bothered me. And then back in the ward, not quite so bad, but lots of them. And the nurses are always wanting help with taking care of the guys, that as far as fixing their beds and helping them eat, and daily things that came about. Oh, their clothes and so on. And so I got kind of used to that a little bit, and I kept begging her, our head nurse, that if they had something open in maintenance, I would sure like to go to maintenance, because boy, I was seeing things that I couldn't sleep or eat decent. And I thought I was going to have trouble, but she says you'll get used to it in a week or so, you'll be able to do it. Just keep on going, and we'll keep looking for a maintenance thing. But I don't think she did. But and we had this older man, I remember, in a room, and I could not believe that he could stay alive. He was just skin and bones, and he had been alive for, years like that, and his skin was all broken down, and he had these real bad bed sores, wide open, and I was supposed to help him out there, whatever I could, but you couldn't converse with him. He was pretty well out of it, and as I was looking at his sores and supposed to dress those up, why, I saw something move in there, and sure enough, those were maggots in there. Ooh! And I runs to the head nurse, and I says, "Hey, do you guys know that this man has these maggots in his big sores there?" And she smiles. "Yes, we do. The doctor has put them there. Those are surgical maggots, and they're supposed to keep his sores clean." Oh. And so I'd run on to things like that I had no idea that there was such. But I did slowly got used to it. And worked on that ward for a year.
What years were you?
Okay, those would have been that would have been 55, and then
56.
And then 56, we got married, right?
57.
And 57.
A little over 2 years is what he spent there.
Okay, yeah.
And I got married and had her come up there, and we had an apartment out of the hospital there and close, and that worked pretty good. And then I finally worked my way down to physical therapy and worked with other 1W boys down there, and that was interesting and pretty well enjoyed that. And
that was the days of the iron lung for polio.
Yes, we had some of those. The iron lung up, we had 3 fellas on that, and one of them was a pretty good sized firefighter, and he had been in World War II and made it through the war, and then he had a job with a helicopter crew flying over the 2 cities that were bombed bad with the atom bomb over in Japan. And they'd cruise over there and make every day in certain hours and make sure that no one was in the area that's supposed to be marked off. And he would tell me what he'd see there as they flew along. And one thing I remember was that there was so many little bridges made out of pipe handle going over small little streams in the city there. And he remembers seeing where people are walking over these all the time because they walk everywhere over there. And as they're walking over this bridge and have their hands on this pipe rail, when the bomb went off and the people were on there, it shocked them and their nerves froze like that. And so and that bomb makes that metal just melt instantly. So there were handprints in these bars where people were walking over when that hit, and it probably just vaporized them, But they left their hand marks in the pipes rail. And boy, he told me that, I couldn't believe it. But okay, and then as he was doing that, why, I'm not sure, can't say when he caught that polio, but he caught polio, and it got bad on him, and got real bad, and pretty soon he couldn't breathe. So they had rushed him in there and had him in these iron lungs, and that was the only way he could stay alive. He'd have his head out one end, and the rest of the body was inside the capsule, and there was glass and all the way around, so you could stand on the outside and see how his body was doing, and you could see how his chest was breathing and all this. And then they came with a unit that he could work with. I mean, they really had to work with him to be able to put it on his chest, strap it on, and he would be able to breathe with that if everything was just right. And he did learn how to do that. And as he's changing over, he had to learn how to frog breathe. And I always wondered what that was, and that means he has to gulp that air, whatever little bit he can get out of the air, and because there's enough hesitation right there on that transition that he has to have a little somehow of his own, and he learned how to do that. So he was one of the three we had up on that part of the ward there, and it got real interesting, because you'll see things there that I'd never heard of before. But I've got to mention that we had a lot of young guys on the ward. Not a lot, but maybe, three or four. They kind of came and went. And they had this seizures, epileptic seizures. And this one boy was not long out of high school, and he would get them bad. And we'd have to hold him in there and strap him down sometimes, and they were working with him to see what chemicals they could use on him to eliminate that way down. Well, then a lot of his classmates would come in to visit him, and we'd have to make accommodations there so they could sit around him and visit for a long time and all. And there was always one gal there that I didn't know was that way, but it turned out that she was Miss Colorado. And she'd come in to visit him quite often. And you could tell which one she was. All right. Yeah. Okay, the other thing was the university building over there. It went deep in the ground. I don't know how many stories down in there, and then up a ways, and you could always hear the dogs barking way up on top that they used for experimenting. The students, nursing and doctors, and I would ride my bicycle and park it inside this little opening where the ambulances would come and go for people in the morgue. They'd be bringing people in and out of the morgue there. And I could park my bicycle in there and no one would even see it or know it. And I'd park it against this railing, and the railing led where I was. I was on the surface, but it dropped off, and there were windows down below. But the blinds were always pulled, so I could never see what was in those rooms, and we would never get into the university's building. Well, hardly any. Sometimes we took some patients over there. But all of a sudden, at one noon, came in, parked that bike, and glanced down there, and the blinds were open. And I'm looking there to see if I might know this person that's standing there, and he's got dress trousers on and a nice shirt and all, and he's turned away from me, and I couldn't see who he was, and he moved around a little bit, and I tried to get positioned a little different, and pretty soon he turns around, and gee whiz, he doesn't have any face. His face is gone. And here he's got this open, and he has tubes hanging here with, what do they call those? Rheostat. No, not rheostat. These clamps. These clamps on these tubes here, hanging down. And wow, that was fascinating now. So I learned to know some intern guys that were going to school there and would eat with them in the cafeteria sometimes. And I knew this one guy pretty well, old John. So I said, John, tell me about this guy in one of the basements down there in this room. You saw him down there? Yeah. But he didn't have any face. No, he don't. Well, what are they doing with him? Well, nobody's supposed to know him or know about that, really. So you got to keep that really quiet. And somehow those blinds were open just one part of a day, and I got to see it. But he was a pilot, a Navy pilot, and he flew his plane from the mainland over to the aircraft carrier way out in the ocean. And as he was going, it was quite a ways. So as he was going, he got more comfortable because he knew it was a long trip. And he unstrapped his harness here that has him tight in the seat. And when he gets to his ship there, and he's making arrangements to land, here he's coming in. And he comes in on the end, hits the deck, and his hook back there hooks into that cord. They have a cord that goes across, and it hooks into the hook of a plane that the plane has back there, and that stops that plane just like that, and doesn't let it get out of hand and go too far and go off the end or go into the housing over here and all. Well, when it hit that hook, his head and face and body went into the dashboard, and when it did that, it just smashed everything. eyes, and so they took and grafted skin from under here by the throat and just laid it clear up here to his temples and his skull here and tied it on. So that's all he has here now. But when that happened, they knew he was a real sharp, bright guy, and they could communicate with him. I would have liked to seen how they did that. I couldn't see ears on him, but he might have had openings. They might have been able to. I never did find out whether he could hear anything or not. But anyway, they says, really, they're not supposed to leave anybody live in that condition. But they knew how sharp he was and everything, and if he wanted to, it was all up to him. If he wanted to, they would keep him alive and see if they could get him making a face. And he agreed, and if he got to where he couldn't take it anymore, they just let him go. And so that's how it went, and that's all that I ever heard or knew about him. Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Some of the things that
Yeah. We had, I had some friends over there close to my apartment on what street was that, Della?
Well, Colfax. but
Colfax. Exactly. Wait a minute, was that? Yeah,
He doesn't want to.
sure was, on Colfax. There's a big Army hospital there, Fitzsimmons Army Hospital. And I had friends that were in there, 1W boys, and the total there must have been at least 12 guys. And they had their own quarters, their own bunks, what do they call it? But anyway, those fellas were there to eat radioactive food that was 10 years old and had been preserved with radiation.
They were guinea pigs.
Guinea pigs, yeah. And they would have to eat all this different food, and then everything had to be kept track of. All the liquids that went in and the solids that went into their bodies, they had to keep track of that all. And if they wanted to go downtown to see a ball game or something, then they had to take containers along, and anytime they had to urinate or defecate or whatever, then they had to put it in these containers, keep it all and bring it back, and that all keeps track of. And they had people working with them continuously. And I learned to know them and went with them places. And that was kind of fun. And then if we could get something worked out where we could rent skis from that Fitzsimmons, it was a base really, and it has everything. And they'd have skis and equipment for ball playing and all that, and gymnasiums. They just have everything. And we'd work a deal and get us some skis, and if we could keep up enough cash, put together enough cash and cars, we'd go up skiing then in the winter. And man, that was fun, real fun. But there were things you could do, and when she was there, we'd go up skiing then some. But then I was making more then. Maybe because she was
I
here.
don't know. Wasn't much.
Yeah. And we'd even go to, like the history museum, and they'd have films, travel films from all over the world, and we could go there and sit and watch those. You remember that?
Well, no.
Oh man, many, many.
Before my day.
And that was always neat for us because we just didn't have much. I know there were a few others, but what they were, I couldn't tell you. But most all of them were Mennonite guys. Oh, and I'm missing the important part here. For recreation, these hospitals would have teams, basketball team, and then the 1W boys would be on those teams. And that's where I got to play too some. And you go around and play other hospitals. So you'd run on to other 1W boys from Denver General, and from Rose and there's hospitals all over. And we'd get to play them. And that was fun. Yeah, these nurses, but these nurses, I get some of them knew that. So there must have been some other guys there before we were even, because some of them knew all about it, some didn't. So we'd have to explain to them, and we'd have some rough, tough nurse gals from New York City, and they'd come up there to work, and boy, you'd explain that to them, and boy, they'd come slamming back and make you feel pretty small. But most of the gals there went along with it real good. Had one guy in physical therapy. He had just gotten out of the Navy, and they had him working there doing the same thing we were. And he would give us a little trouble and a little guff all the time. And if I remember right, it never got real bad, but the guys had to explain to him a few times.
Yeah.
After I was out of there and was wanting to get a job and all, there's where you run into it. And there a lot of these companies and all will frown on you because you'll be working with other guys from military, and you can have rubs there. And I know just what they were up against. So if they do want to take a chance and all, they want you to keep that quiet, but you can't keep it quiet. Those guys that you're working with, they feel that right away. They know that. And some of them sure don't like that. And you got by way, way too easy and all. And they had to go through some terrible stuff. And you can see why they think that way. Yeah. No, that would be the only time. And then when we were cutting with our combines, some of the farmers wouldn't go for that. They still let us work for them, but they would mention that once in a while, but never did get real nasty about it or anything. we got along pretty good that way most of the time. But and I've had hired help then on the harvest, and they were from military, and one of them was off of the USS Nimitz, the first atomic flat top. It was an aircraft carrier. Yeah, but he was a funny guy. I don't know how the Navy ever used him and all, but they claim he claims he was just in a section of the ship and he never leaves that area. We were asking him about the ship, you know, and what he knew about it. He didn't know a thing. He says they have barber shops and movie places and drug stores and all around his dorm area there. He didn't have to go anyplace. And his job was just to read meters with hands on them and a room that had a whole bunch of different meters. I guess, I don't know if that was for the atomic or the hot waters or what, but anyway, that was his job, and he would never really get on me about it too much of that, but he could have, I guess. And I've had a few others there, but they ain't not too bad. What would it be, Dal? we'd go.
Well, you grew up fast.
Yeah, she and I would go with some of the other couples and go eat pizza and have fun doing that.
Well,
but
we
one
were
of
friends with another couple who ran the. They actually were house parents of the 1W unit, and you know we'd get in on some things with the what do I call them? Voluntary service. Unit.
Voluntary service, that's it. And they had their own house, brand new house built, and it had the apartment rooms in them and all, and
right next to a Mennonite church there.
Yeah, old Mennonite church.
Where
yeah.
Mrs. Mrs. John Gettert.
Oh yeah.
Attended. She was a Denver girl. LaDonna.
LaDonna, yeah.
Of course, we didn't know her then. But.
Right.
And so there, we'd hang around there quite a bit, she and I.
Yeah, that was.
And we had a boat. Dad had a boat, and we took it along over there.
Yes, we did boating.
And we did boating. And then, what was fun was we made water skis. And
right there at
that house in the alleyway there, and we used old worn out bowling pins for wood, and got a barrel of water, just boiling hot, and then we'd soak this ash. The instructions in the magazine there said use ash wood. And man, we couldn't get it soaked, but we soaked all day and all night, I guess, and finally got it to where we could put a scoop on it,
Right, yeah.
And then made some footholds out of truck tubes and so on, and we took them out and did our water ski job there. That was fun now. It was an experience that was really good for me. I know that because I learned a lot about medical things and got to see my first open heart surgery, and it was one of the first up there in Denver. And we took this patient up there, he was a football player for Brigham Young University, and they opened him all up there and had 4 doctors working right down there in his heart, and we were sitting up above in the operating room when these students would sit and look through glass right down onto the operation here. So we got to see that, and we got to see one of the first artificial kidney, an artificial kidney. And it took, we took this fella up there, and he'd had a wreck with his motorcycle, a big fella, and young, and it messed him up so bad, and they gave him so many medications. Now his kidneys were shutting down. And we took him up to a room that was just very much like this one. This one probably just a little bit bigger, but it was all full of tubes, and glass tubes and rubber tubes and plastic and the whole thing, and it had little motors and pumps every place. And they had him right here in the middle, and when they had him plumbed up so many tubes and everything, and when they were ready, we got to watch all this. And these people then were all at their stations, and when it was go time, everyone starts their pumps all up at the same time, and now his blood is running out of him and going through the room. And the other blood that had been put in everywhere, a bunch, were going through him to clean him up, and then out again. And then his own, I guess, would come back again. That was some. There were only 3 in the U.S., and the other 2 were on the coast, California and out east, and we had this one in Denver. And I was tickled to see that. Oh, and the other thing that I want to mention was these intern docs. I'd always learned quite a bit from them. They were just a little older than we were, maybe 2-3 years older when they were starting there, and they were sharp fellas. And got to, eat with them in the cafeteria, and so we'd learn a lot of things from them. And they just came from a seminar where some doctors were talking and giving these guys pep talks and about the future and all coming up. And this one, these boys were talking, these interns were talking amongst each other when we came down to eat with them, and they were so busy talking, and we couldn't pick up with what they were. And so I asked old John, "What in the heck are you guys so interested in here?" Well, this doc, what did they call him? Resident doc, yeah. He mentions that within 50 years, we'll be able to see people live forever. And boy, that struck these guys. And they wanted him to elaborate on that. No, he wasn't going to do that, but just remember that. 50 years. And so when they told me that, right away, I wanted to remember that. Hit the news. Dolly. Okay.
Well, it was
He was the one, or she, whatever, is the one that started it. And now they can, when they clone people, they can just keep you going. You know, they can make another one of you and another one, just keep on going. But and that was 50 years. from the time they told me that till the time that happened.
I
But
don't know.
in the U.S., you know, you're not allowed to do that with people. But I'm sure there's other countries that are doing it. But I don't know which ones they'd be. But that was one way that they were going to keep them going.
I
Okay,
think
okay.
Good.
when he's done, you're done.
Yeah. No, that's great. Yeah. Man, that might be the longest one I've done.
He's
That
a
was great.
storyteller.
Yes, you really. I enjoyed that a lot.
Then I'll tell you about the harvest, yeah.